edition of Driving Carelessly, a show in which we turn on the radio and talk about whatever we find. Oh my word. The world he left behind. Okay, so that is probably Gladys Knight's biggest hit. I don't know, I haven't really followed the career of Gladys Knight that much, but mad respect to Gladys Knight and the Pimps. The Pips. Going back to find a simpler place in time. Taking the midnight plane to Houston. So, there's a really good video interview of the person who rode Midnight Train to Georgia. And that person was a friend of Farrah Fawcett Majors. And in my memory, Midnight Train to Georgia is older than when Farrah Fawcett Majors and Lee Majors and Ryan O'Neal were a big deal. Well, after Ryan O'Neal. Anyway, so in my mind, Midnight Train to Georgia sounds older, earthier, bluesier, wonderful vocal performance by Gladys Knight. Seems like a classic. But the phrase Midnight Train to Georgia started out as Midnight Flight to Houston. So Farrah Fawcett was living in LA or Hollywood, near there. I don't know where. In California. She's from Texas. And she was talking to the songwriter, saying she was going to go home, flying the midnight flight to Houston to see her parents, I guess. See her dad, see her parents, I don't know. And so the phrase midnight plane to Houston just stuck in his head. And I guess, if I remember correctly, he played with that phrase, midnight train to Houston, midnight plane to Houston, midnight plane to Houston, midnight plane to Houston, and it became Midnight Plane to Georgia. And several people recorded Midnight Plane to Georgia, or maybe they started to record it or considered it or made a demo of it. And then Gladys Knight just took that home, didn't she? I mean, if you're interested in vocal performance, just listen to Gladys Knight, Midnight Train to Georgia. And it's amazing to me, having discovered that story late. You've got these movers and shakers in the culture, and these coincidences, and these people who are willing to be creative and to be in the public eye, who bring out creativity and art from one another. I just never would have thought that Farrah Fawcett had anything to do with that song. And of course, she really was just talking. She wasn't trying to create art. She just said what she was doing. I'm gonna go visit my family. But then somebody turned that into something that Gladys Knight turned into art. All right, let's see what else we got. I'll go back to that. INXS, INXS, Michael Hutchence. I think Hutchens, I'm not sure. So he was part of this story of people dying accidentally through self-inflicted means. And that story was a story. Okay? So you've got all these people around the world in the public eye, on the edges of the public eye. I don't think anybody really big at the time. You know, it wasn't like Princess Diana. But at the same time, you had these people on the edges of fame who all engaged in this activity that resulted in their death. Really? So check that one out if you're interested in the con theories.
And gourmet foods. Mornings on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio. ESPN. You know, I spent a lot of time at Walt Disney World. And Walt Disney, the man, had a show on ABC on Sunday nights that was very successful, right? But it was parlayed by the Disney company into owning ABC, or buying ABC. And so Disney at one time, and still owns a lot of this. It owned ESPN and ABC and the hugest, most expensive theme park, much greater investment than Walt Disney World here in Florida, in Shanghai, which had its sacrifice in the Seven Seas Lagoon by alligator by someone named Graves. So there's this international religion that Disney promotes, and I certainly was a devotee without knowing it. If you want to talk about art and artificial and artifice and putting lipstick on a pig, you know, we've got the pirate and princess way of training our kids. The princess is, of course, the next in line for the throne. The princess is who she is because she's the daughter of the king and the queen. And then we got the pirate, who is who he is because he refuses to follow the rules and goes around stealing stuff and singing yo ho, yo ho. So we've got the pirate and princess dichotomy. And it'd be hard to say that Disney invented that, but they certainly promulgated it. But it's much older than that. I mean, the stories about women, heroines, tend to be stories about who they actually are, or what they're actually like, their personal characteristics or attributes, or, you know, they're the pauper who is really the princess, or, you know, it's who they are. Whereas the heroes, the males, the archetypes are what they do. You know, Hercules does all those labors, whereas the woman hero has something deep inside that's gracious and wonderful. It's not really based on what she's accomplished. It's who she is. Anyway, Disney certainly promulgated that. And they're certainly ahead of the curve in gender doesn't matter anymore. But that's really just an outgrowth of entertainment. Being cast in shows, you know, they want the young pretty girl to play a young pretty girl, or somebody who looks like a young pretty girl to play the young pretty girl, and they want the strong man to be seen as a strong man. So there's these very definite characters that are almost always male or female that art, entertainment, movies, books, myths, plays, including Disney, have been. But then that same entertainment industry, demographic, media, hype, marketing juggernaut has decided to tell us that it doesn't matter if people are male or female. But every story has been based on male or female. There's very few stories that are like the old authority figure and the young child. It's almost always the old woman and the young girl, or the old man and the young boy, or it's, in order to make a story, it seems like we humans need to know, to make sense of the plot or the characterization, or to make a story, it involves either this or that. It's male or female. But then those same people that sell these stories to us have decided that it doesn't matter if you're male or female, or that's an overstatement, but that it's a spectrum, or that there's confusion, or that what it seems might not be what it is, or what it is doesn't have to be what it seems. So we've gotten to the point where for a while they were having men play women, but now they want trans people to play trans, and they want Mexican people to play Mexican, and they want, pretty soon you can't play a murderer unless you actually murdered someone. And so they jumped the shark. They took it too far. And so now we're just confused about that as well. But it's very rare to see a story, hear a story, be invested in a story with a genderless protagonist or genderless antagonist. So don't they prove the point they're trying to disprove? Alright, let's see what else we got.
Young, they're hot, or whatever. So George Clooney is the other. I think George Clooney and Jay Wright.
George Clooney, he certainly seems to be injected into the culture. Alright. Does somebody want to research the